Hey everyone, it's Evelyn, and I'm in my office again today because today is the Q&A for the May videos. Just a quick reminder that the next Q&A will be on, as per usual, the first Wednesday following the final video of the month. So the final video of the month for June, Saturday, the following Wednesday, will be July 2nd. So just to let you know that. And now we're going to get into the first video, which is the April Q&A. The first question is from Common Law. Well, actually, the only question we're going to answer on this video is from Common Law 5400. And she says, no hard feelings if your visceral response is what it is, and like, no, because all questions are worthy questions to ask if you don't have the answer to them. That's how you learn. You don't want to know how many questions I ask in the course of a day and everything. I'm like a little kid. Why is that? What's this? And then I oftentimes will get the answer, and then I'll ask, why is that the answer? Because is it just because that's what you were told? Because oftentimes things get passed along an incorrect answer, and so they carry on. So I always try to give an answer with an explanation as to why, which is what I'm going to do with this one. So, are you planting the box the dahlias are in the dirt and staying in the box in the dirt? And what she's referring to is I start my dahlia tubers in the bottom 4-inch of a juice or milk container. And if I take my measuring tape, most of my tubers go from corner to corner, which is 5 inches. So that most of my tubers that I'm planting are between 4 and 5 inches. Some are bigger, and then I put them in like a drink or juice container sideways because they need more than that distance. So am I planting this in the dirt as is? And if that could actually be done, what a time saver that would be. Do you think that could be done if the dahlias were planted in half-gallon or 1.892706 liter plastic jugs with lots of drain holes, or the bottoms of gallon 3.785412 liter milk jugs make fall removal easier? I left my dahlias in a raised bed covered with a thick layer of leaves, heavy greenhouse plastic, a tarp, and trash bags full of leaves on top of all of that. They were popping now May 4th in Zone 7A. I put bags of leaves around the outside of the bed for extra insulation. And I found the next door site very valuable for asking for bagged leaves. 2 neighbors brought their bagged leaves to me. The reason I don't leave them in the ground is because we are intensely wet in the winter. And you might get lucky some years, or I might get lucky some years and have them survive over the course of the winter. But just as likely, we will have torrential rains for 3 months and they will just rot. So it's not worth the chance. No, I mean, it might be worth the chance if you're only planting 1 or 2, but I'm not planting 1 or 2. I'm planting, I can't remember how many, around 170. And if they all rotted, that would be a lot of money to replace them all. So there is no way I would do that. In fact, oftentimes my customers who buy the potted dahlias at my Roadside flower wagon are doing so because they always leave their dahlias in the ground over the winter. And then that particular year they've rotted out. And then there's way more sales at my flower wagon for potted dahlias than the natural amount in the in-between years when they're not that much. It does happen. We are so incredibly wet. But anyway, that's not the question. The question is can I leave them in this? And the answer is no. Nor would I put them in a 1-gallon pot or a 2-gallon pot. And the reason is, I'll just put up this, oh, hang on. Hang on. Hello, you. This is Leela wanting to say hi, and there's another dog right behind her wanting to get in line, but oh, she walked out the door. Okay, no, off, 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 no, off. Okay, I'm going to put a picture up on the screen to explain why I would not leave them in a container whose greatest distance is 5 inches. So if you look at this picture, you will see that the tubers are all coming off into different directions. And each one of those tubers is probably anywhere from 4 to 6 inches in length. And then, of course, they're coming off of a central bulge on the bottom of the stem. which is itself 2 to 3 inches. So you are looking at a minimum width of 10 inches in diameter once all of the thin parts of the roots are taken off. So if you want your tubers, somebody just put their ball on my table there. If you want your tubers to be nicely separated and pulled away from each other like that, there is no way you could leave them in a container like this. Absolutely no way, because you only have at the max 5 inches. And as it is, the front of this tuber is here and the back of the tuber is here, and all the new tubers come from the front of it. So I could not leave them in this. They would just be, the tubers would all come out all gnarled together like that, and it would just be a mass ball of tubers fighting for space and would be really, really unhealthy. And the same goes for a 1 gallon or 2 gallon pot. They just don't have the room. You can grow your tubers, your dahlias in pots, but bear in mind, 10 inches is the minimum diameter that you want for healthy tuber growth. And if you're leaving those tubers in the pot over winter, even in a rainy climate, you can take that pot, here comes the next dog, and you can put it under cover so that it doesn't get drowned out and then bring it out again in the spring. But if you need a minimum of 10 inches for the first year of a tuber, you would need more than that for the second year. So that is why growing dahlias in small pots doesn't really work. You're strangling the tuber system, and by doing so, you're creating a somewhat unhealthy plant. Now, I will show you, I just need to get somebody off of me. You're off. So that dahlia plant that I brought in is getting pretty close to being composted. Just one sec. I'm going to grab a box so that I can contain my dirt, because I had it here. I'm going to grab this. It's really easy to get it out of this. I just have to tip it upside down, squish the sides because they're soft, tip it up. I haven't been watering this in the last couple of days, so it's pretty dry. And there you go. That was really easy to get out of that because the sides of this are really soft. Let's just pull the dirt away, just for fun, and see what it's looking like. I've got dirt on me anyway. Okay, so can you see that? Here, hang on. Spilling dirt everywhere? That's okay. Can you see how it's already growing a little tuber here? And it's having to grow it out this way because this was in the corner of the pot. These two tubers were probably original to the original tuber. I probably had a double, and it's starting one already growing out this way with all these roots. So that's what this little tuber base to this very now unhappy AC bin dahlia looks like. Okay, I'm going to throw some of this dirt back into the pot. Put this guy in here. I don't know why, because he's probably going to get composted because it's coming a bit close to the end of the time where you can actually plant them anymore. Usually June 1st is my cutoff, but I'll just leave that in there. I'll leave this in here. That answers that question. And we are now going to move on to the next video, which is tweaking the bouquet station. Tweaking my bouquet station. I got no questions on that video. I got some comments, but no questions at all. So I'm just going to expand on the part of the comment that I'm blanking out for a second here. Common Law 5400, I believe it was, talked about how she leaves her dahlias in the ground and then covers them with a mulch of leaves, etc., and why I don't do that. So where I live in Campbell River, which is halfway up Vancouver Island, people know that we are wet here, but they assume we are wet like Vancouver or Victoria if you live in Canada, or Seattle if you live in the States. I'm going to read you some statistics because I looked this up because I need to really emphasize how wet we are. So, Campbell River, located on the eastern side of Vancouver Island, experiences an annual rainfall of about 82 inches or 2,080 millimeters. And that is according to Destination Campbell River. In contrast, Vancouver, while known for rain, averages around 1,189 millimeters or 46.8 inches of precipitation annually. So we talk the inches. Vancouver gets, presumably Victoria is pretty close to Vancouver because I think they're about the same. They get 46.8 inches of precip annually, and we get 82. That is way more, and most of that is in the winter because we're actually quite dry in July and August, and often even in September into halfway through October. Most of that rain is falling in November, December, and January. That's heavy rain for us. Now, if you live in the States and are more familiar with Seattle's rainfall, they get an annual rainfall of 37 inches or 940 millimeters. They get 37 inches, we get 82 inches. So we get a lot of rain. And that is why I will always dig my dahlias up. That is a lot of rain. And more often than not, those tubers will rot out. And since I'm planting close to 200, I am not going to take that chance. It's just not worth it. If I was only planting 1 or 2, maybe. But yeah, that's a big loss. And a lot of the tubers that I do, plants that I do sell at the Roadside Flower Wagon is because people have lost, I think I mentioned that in the previous clip, because people have lost theirs over the winter from them rotting out. You can be good for a few years, and then all of a sudden it's just, there's nothing you can do. They're going to rot. Our tubers don't freeze. If I have them 6 inches below the grade of the ground, surface of the soil, they will never freeze because we're not overly cold in the winter. It's very unusual for us to get below -10. Whatever that is in Fahrenheit, I'll put it up on the screen. But anyway, so that was just a little blurb on how much rainfall we get. And if you're aghast at how much we get, yeah, we get a lot of rain. So if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider giving me a thumbs up. Really, really do appreciate it. I do look at my stats. And now let's go on to the next video of the month, which was on May 10th. And it is called May at My Flower Wagon. So Deborah Hockenberry 5440, yes, that's right, says, taking a break from gardening to have lunch and watch your video. What kind of lights do you use on the flower wagon? I put some solar fairy lights on mine, but because it is enclosed, I could certainly use the ones you put on yours. So the ones I use are puck lights that look just like this. Comes in a package of 3, which is why I have a spare here, because I only have 2 in the flower wagon. It also comes with a sticky thing that you can put on the back, and then you can peel it off on the other side, and then I stuck it onto the underside of my flower wagon. So the batteries in this one are dead, but to turn it on, if you don't have the remote, okay, off. Leela, off. Good dog. If you don't have the remote, so it's up in there, I can just push it, like you can hear the click. Actually, I should have done it closer to my mic to hear the click. And then that'll turn it on. But with the remote, I can turn it on, but my distance is only really, I have to go right up to the fence to turn it on. So that's only a distance of, I'm looking at it through my office window, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, maybe 12 to 18 feet. I don't think it's 18 feet, but it's at least 12 feet. Anyway, not a great distance. And then when it's stuck up here, if the battery runs dead, you just, which way do I turn it? That way. You can take that off and replace the 3 batteries. And then there's just little clips here that you line it up with. Yeah, line it up with them and turn it, and then it's back on again. I will say that when they're outside, because when I started doing it, which would have been the final week of, no, I didn't have them in there right away, so it would have been in April sometime. We were still fairly chilly at night. We weren't below 0, but we were pretty chilly, probably down around 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. Again, I'll put Fahrenheit up here. And the batteries didn't have a long life because batteries don't do as well in the cold. So I had to replace the batteries on my puck lights maybe 3 times until, I mean, I'm not even using them anymore because we are not black sky outside until 10:15. It's getting dark, but you can still see blue in the sky, and it's very easy to see what you're doing. at 10 p.m., which is when I close it up, so I don't need them anymore. So I needed to replace the batteries. Was it 3 times or twice? I can't remember. But yeah, I did need to replace the batteries. But it is so convenient for turning them on and off. And it really makes a big difference being able to see in the flower wagon once it's dark what's in there. And you might think, well, why even do this just for the month of April and part of May? Because I'm going to need them again in the fall, because I keep my flower wagon going until the first killing frost, which last year was not until the 3rd or 4th week in November, and one year it wasn't until the 1st week in December. Sometimes it's earlier. There's been a few times where it's finished around the middle of October, but it's always not until the middle of October where I live. I am close to the sea level, so we have fairly milder temperatures than people in Campbell River, because we're kind of on a slope like this, and we're closer to sea level. But if you live farther inland in Campbell River, you're higher up and closer to the mountains, and their frost actually happens before mine, even though we live in the same city. Okay, so that's that question. And I'm going to just put up a picture of what the flower wagon looks like with those 2 puck lights on, so you can see when it's dark. It actually really does light up the interior. And bonus of that too is it also lights up the back of my cash box, which I can see from my office window. And it lets me know if there's money in there, because I try not to leave money in there if I see it, because of theft, for obvious reasons. Last year, my cash box was smashed once, but there was no money in it because I had already emptied it out. Last year, we also lost a wheel on the flower wagon. I mean, stranger things happen. And of course, there's theft from inside the flower wagon as well. And I will not confront somebody if I see them stealing something, because I don't need them coming back in the middle of the night and causing vandalism on our property. So even if I see somebody stealing something, which is not often, I will just ignore it. I get tips too often, it balances out. Last year, my theft was definitely higher than any other year, and it did not balance out. But this year, for example, for the month of May, I had $9 worth of product stolen and $9 worth of tips. So, I mean, the month of May completely balanced out, which is just really kind of weird. Anyway, we're now going to move on to where am I here? I opened up the wrong thing. We're going to go up to May on my tiny urban flower farm. So, May on my tiny urban flower farming. I believe that was a video that I asked lots of questions. I can't remember. I get all confused. Or no, maybe that was the next one. But anyway, Canadian Gardener 6A says, "Thank you, Evelyn and girls, for the video." And of course, girls are Leela and Esri, who have now left me alone. She says, "The in-between time must be really frustrating for flower farmers. Next year, you will have candy tuft and lavender cuttings to sell," which is true because I mentioned that somewhere, that I was taking cuttings from them to sell at my flower wagon. Only when they're in bloom, though. And she says, "What about rosemary, thyme, and marjoram?" And the reason I will not grow rosemary, thyme, or marjoram is because I have in past tried chives, I've tried tomatoes, and I've tried a couple of other plants that aren't specifically flowers. And for whatever reason, I find that when I have pots that are flowers, and even though the dahlias aren't blooming, they are flowers, I have good sales on them and virtually no theft. When I have plants that are not flowers but are more food oriented, they get stolen, and they get 50% stolen, which is way too high a cost to go to the effort of creating the plants to sell. I had mentioned if I had extra tomato plants, I would take them up the flower wagon to sell. But they're extras, so if they get stolen, it doesn't really matter. I'm not out anything. I had already made them, not intentionally to sell. So that is why I would not do rosemary, thyme, or marjoram. It seems that those people who are going to steal will look at a food item and go, "I'm going to plant this where I live," probably because they don't have a lot of money. I will not hold that against them. If it's just a few minutes out of my time to crate and get up to the flower wagon and a pot that's being recycled and soil that I haven't bought, and if they don't have a lot of money for food, I'd rather they did that than ate chocolate bars, to tell you the truth. However, I'm not going to put the time in for it. It's just not worth it for me. So that is why I'm not going to do that. Okay, we are going to move on to the Mistaken Gardener, who says, I just started watching, but it's finally stopped raining, so I'm popping out to make a video. One quick question though. What is the microphone you use, and did you buy it off of Amazon? No, I bought it locally. So if you're in Canada, locally is London. I bought it at London Drugs, which is a Canadian store. It's not in the States. I think it's actually a Western Canada store to begin with. I have no idea if it's even across Canada. But anyway, I bought it at London Drugs. They have a very good tech department. And I bought the DJI mic, and I bought the one with the 2 microphones. So if I open this up, this is this. So I bought the one that has 2 of those. So if I ever have somebody else in the video besides me, I can mic them up. Now, oh, my lamp just turned off. And just all of a sudden it went darker in front of me here, but I have a lamp on over there and it just turned off. Where am I here? I got my pictures in this order. Okay, so I showed you this open the way I have it now, but when I open it, when everything is in it, this is what it looks like. And that centerpiece that you see that's quite big is actually now on my phone, and it's the receiver for the mic. And that is also connected to my phone with, if I take it out behind it, there was 2 little slots. One's still in there. I don't know. I can't remember what that one's for. Camera or something, which I'm not using. I'm using my phone. But you can see this other little piece that I have on the table. That slides into the transceiver, or whatever it's called, that then goes into my phone. And as you can see in this picture, here it is slid into it. And that little, if I pull out this other one, that little piece on it here, which is bigger on the one in the picture, pushes into the bottom of my phone with the transceiver already attached to it. So then it wants you to confirm that it's supposed to be attached to this and it's supposed to be on. And of course I want it to be on that. So as I'm talking to my phone, I can see my transceiver as my voice goes up and down. There's a green light that goes up and down with my voice. So I can actually see that it's working and I can see the volume of it. So if I feel like it's too loud, which it never is, I can actually dial it down. If I had the camera, if I had it right up to my mouth, it would be like way too close and probably too loud at that time. But they have them set so that they're at a pretty good standard volume receiving amount. And of course that connects to this piece that's on me here. When I'm outside, you will see I have this little muff. And if I pull out the other mic, you can see at the top of the mic, there's a little hole. This just pushes in there. And all that does, it's a wind buffer. So you do not need this on when you're inside. You see some people having this on when they're inside. It's 100% unnecessary. There's no wind inside. It's literally just a wind muff. And the other thing that they have, if you watched previous videos, you'll have seen this fall off my top once. That's because I was using this magnet, which I no longer use because it fell off that one time. So the magnet, though, is actually quite strong. And you can put the magnet underneath your top and then just hook the mic to it that way. But I was wearing a really thick winter top that time it fell off. But I find it just as easy to clip because it's also got this little clip thing on here that I clip onto my top. So I just thought I'd share that with you guys. So if anybody's interested in getting a mic, it's a DJI. You don't need to get the one with the 2 microphones. I've just always been of the belief, if you think you may in the future, near future, need an upgrade, I would rather buy the upgrade now instead of buying the cheaper version now and then spending more in another year or 2, because then the cost of the cheaper version is just a waste of money because I don't replace my tech items on a yearly basis. I mean, my computer needs replacing, and that will probably be the next thing I need replacing. I think it's and I just have a laptop. I think it's about 7 years old right now. In fact, my editing program is pretty basic because the program that I wanted to use It's not even compatible with my computer anymore because my computer's too old at 7 years old. Anyway, so that was that question that I thought that I would answer. And we are now going to move on to the next video, which is May bouquets. So for May bouquets, where am I here? Heike de Ubner. I think that's the way you say it. I'm not 100% sure. I think that's Heike the gardener, Heike the something. I should know that. I should have Googled that before I start spewing off on that. Anyway, Heike de Ubner says, the leaf shape of the starts from the beach made me wonder if they could be a yellow willow rather than a dogwood, and I concur with her. And she then says, your anemones are much bigger and taller than mine. Any tips? And I did make a tip saying that last year I grew my anemones in more shade and they were all really tall. I'm going to take that tip away because the ones that grew in the shade are now very short. So I don't think they got enough sunlight for their corms to get good length on them this year. The ones that are really tall are my Carmel whites. And I think that's the variety. They're supposed to have a 21-inch stem. And they are taller than my Carmel pastels, which are also new. They're taller than my ranunculus. I think it's the type. The Carmel whites just have really long stems. I could be wrong because actually the ones that I had last year were long stemmed. Maybe it wasn't the shade. Maybe it was the anemones. And I have no answer as to why they're that tall. I plant them really close together. They definitely have more sun this year than they did last year. That's all I got. If anybody knows how to grow much taller anemone stems, because I'm not being much help, leave them in the comments section below. And while you're leaving a comment in the section below, or if you're not leaving a comment in the section below, please take a moment to subscribe if you haven't. I really, really appreciate that. I mean, I've hit the 1,000, but it's taking me a while to get up to 1,100. I can't believe it. So if you like my videos and you are watching them, please subscribe. Really, really appreciate it. Okay, now, I thought I would share another... No, hang on. We're now going to go on to peony bouquets. So my video on peony bouquets came out on Saturday. Today's only Monday, so it's only a couple of days later. And to date, I don't have any questions on it. I've got several nice comments on it, but no actual questions. So again, I'm going to leave another just fun, interesting piece of information. So this was in clearly in our local newspaper because we were my city was very proud of this statistic, and I'm proud of it, so I just wanted to share it. So according to a recent Statistics Canada survey, so this is not a local survey, this is a Canada-wide survey, Campbell River residents have the highest level of life satisfaction in British Columbia. Hey! We are known for this is a name that we are given. The gateway city to northern Vancouver Island smiled its way to the title of the happiest city in BC with a life satisfaction rating of 61.34%. Every other BC community had a rating below 50%. So, we had over an 11% increase in happiness. Out of all the districts surveyed on the island, the salmon capital of the world, which is another name we're known for, reported the most positive outlook and a strong sense of purpose. So I think that's really cool that we are considered to be one of the happiest cities out there, and we are considered to be a place that has one of the most positive outlooks in life and a strong sense of purpose. So there you go. I am now going to do what I have done with all my other questionnaires, since I thought of it. I don't think I did it in January, and do a montage of my favorite photos that I have taken for the month of May. I'm going to start off with a little video of the dogs. It's only 37 seconds long. It's very, very short. You can skip ahead 37 seconds if you don't want to watch it. But I just think it's a really, really cute video of them, and I think you will enjoy it. Even if you're not a dog owner, lover, or whatever, I think you'll really enjoy the video of the dogs. And then I'm going to do the montage of the photos. And then what I'm going to do is because I actually really like doing these Q&As. I think sometimes I learn things because I want to make sure that when I answer more in depth in these videos, that I have all the correct information. So often I'm doing a little bit of Googling and I'm learning too, which I think is great. So I really do enjoy doing these Q&As, and I think the information in them is really good. And if you've enjoyed this one and you haven't seen any of my other Q&As, I am going to link to the April Q&A, and I think that's well worth watching too. So enjoy the video of the dogs and then the montage of my favorite photos of the month.
Okay.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you again on Saturday, which is just a few days away. Bye.